Okay, we're calling the meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. Please enjoy the food, and let's get this meeting going. We may start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Jennifer?
Face the flag, put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Good to see What?
No problem. Okay. All right. Roll call.
All right, David. Here. Hassan. Here. Susan.
Here.
Alex.
Here.
Jason.
Here.
Andrew. Here. Becky. Driving late. Hey, Jennifer.
Here.
Hassan.
Here.
Gabriel here. Islam. Here. And we have one.
Thank you very much. Secretary, if we can have a motion to approve the minutes.
Yes, I want to place a motion to approve April 11, 2018 minutes.
Can I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any public comments on the minutes from last week? All right, board?
Yes.
Okay.
Page 2, number 7, the last bullet point reads errors made by the previous treasurer, but I would prefer to say something along the lines of errors made by embezzlement, due to embezzlement to the previous treasurer. I like that treasurer name, Sean O'Rourke, so that there's no confusion that it wasn't a treasurer that is a member of this current board.
We cannot say that. You are making a determination of the accusation. If you want to say alleged,
Let's say it.
but at the end of the day, does it really do anybody any good?
Well, I think the record should reflect the accurate description of what really happened.
Well,
Not,
the accurate description of what really happened is yet
Errors.
to
It
be,
wasn't
yet to
an error.
be determined by the city. Let us stay with the fact that it was the previous board treasurer, and we move on. I mean, what was written in the minutes is not in error.
but I think errors is,
There's multiple ways to say it, but it's not in error. So is there an error in the meeting minutes that we need to correct?
What was really said? Was it error? Was the word error used?
it says errors made by the previous treasurer. And I think it should be a more accurate description that was mishandling of funds by the previous treasurer, Sean O'Rourke. So that there's no question that it had nothing, I don't want it to implicate Andrew.
We have to follow the tape. We have to go back to the video and see what was really said. If the word, error was said or not. We have to probably go back to the video and see what was really said.
Because this is a reflection of, this is a record of what was said. So, if it was
I don't
said,
remember the word errors being said, but.
well, not to put Francis on the spot,
Well,
but that's what we got.
Can we just add, so it says previous treasurer Sean O'Rourke, so that it's very clear that it was.
Maybe can we put in parentheses? Because that would indicate that it's not, to clarify, so you could put previous treasurer, or you could, in parentheses.
It's nitpicky, but I think it's important, because I think,
You could say the previous board treasurer.
That's not the issue. The only issue here is whether these minutes reflect the record of the meeting.
What was said?
Correct.
So we gotta go to the video. Let's table it, go to the video. come
I
back to
concur
the
with
video.
Jason. I think if we're going to look at correcting the sentence, we have to go to what was said.
Yeah.
And I don't recall what I said, so we should go to the table.
Let's table it.
Table it and do it as well. Table.
Let's go to the video.
In the interim, we probably should speak to
Yeah,
the city to see if we'd be liable, because there's never been an action yet finalized.
But he did have to, he was made to repay those funds.
just because somebody settles something is not an admittance of guilt and not a determination of guilt. Why are we stepping into dirt?
I'm not, I'm just saying, I think it's important to make a determination that it's previous treasurer, comma, Sean O'Rourke. Why don't we just add his name in?
Can we quit?
Well, I don't like the word error.
I don't
I don't like the word
know.
error. It's not an error.
It's not an error. Misappropriation.
But we can't throw in words. We have to look
Check
at
the, just, let's table, go to the video.
Look at
The
the
video will
video.
clarify, you can't deviate from what it's on, what was actually said.
Okay.
Revisit next one.
Okay, we will table the motion.
I'll review this. Direction.
Next item, MER report. Andrew, would you like the mic? I doubt it.
No. Technically speaking, we do not have the April MER. Correct? I didn't provide you. I don't have it, it's not available. So item number 6 gets bypassed. The April MER is not currently available on the website.
Okay, we're tabling item 6. Item 7.
All right. Board, if you could please take the 2 supplemental pages out. They look like this. Okay. There were a few public copies. Francis, you have your copies. Okay. For the public, there were a few public copies you're welcome to. Okay. First, I'd like you to look at the screen, the printing from the funding website. Okay. You just take a peruse, the budget, the expenses to date, total outstanding, the net available. As Francis has it. Okay. If you turn them over, the numbers on the front I'm not so concerned with. We'll visit that in a second, spreadsheet. If you turn over and look at the pie graphs, circle graphs, you'll be able to compare the budgeted amounts for MPGs, for CIPs, and then for general operational. I do want to make a comment regarding Earth Day, because if you look at the bottom expenditures to date, you'll notice there are very little funds in CIP. Did everybody see that? Okay. The reason being, I think, is that we, or myself, I throw myself under the bus, classify the Earth Day event as a community improvement project. Last year it had a CIP cleanup component, and in this case it seemed more than just an outreach event. So I believe in the budget, we included a large sum in CIPs, a large sum of the $25,000 probably included Earth Day. I've been corrected by the funding department, and that event is really an outreach item. So that's a significant amount of funds that, while it looks like we didn't spend them where we intended, this is just a classification issue. Okay?
Okay.
So I was just alerted to that in the last week or so. All right, please put that down and pick up the spreadsheet. Thank you. Okay, this will look slightly familiar. I did this last month. This is updated as of, the cash balance as of 5/11, please. I put the wrong date, that's as of this morning. Okay. The cash balance, if you're anal, like I am, that number does not match the other sheet you have from the funding website. It is slightly altered. Okay. Because there are items that we have paid for that the checks have not cleared. Okay, so there's cash and trailer. Okay. So the cash balance, bless you. The cash balance is slightly less than what you see on the other paper, just 15,303.06. Okay. These are the budget estimates for either bills for May that I haven't seen yet, or what we anticipate June to look like. Okay, meeting food today plus next month, the website for now June, because I've already paid the May bill, etc. Okay, there are the remaining outreach items, which they're on tonight's agenda for approval. There is a board member reimbursement for Gabe on tonight's agenda. There's a constant contact, which I haven't seen, and the Facebook I haven't seen, though they are minor. Okay, I want to take you to the MPGs, and you see the Friends of PRNC. I mean PRCS. Another typo, sorry. That MPG, as we previously approved it, was denied by the city. Okay, and now the event has occurred. There's no salvaging this. Okay? I'm working with the city and working with the Friends of PRCS to draft a new MPG to unfortunately be heard by us at a special meeting sometime between now and the end of the month. Okay? The issue that we have is that MPGs must be paid by, air quotes, check, okay, through the payment system. The last date to submit payments is June 1, which is before our next meeting. Even though our payment card is good until June 20, you cannot fund an MPG with a card, so we're kind of stuck in a rock and a hard place. I have been up the food chain trying to figure out some exception, some way to get something done without calling a special meeting. It isn't possible. Okay? And I think it's important that we make all efforts to support PRCS. Okay? So I'm continuing to work with them on getting an MPG done and submitted in the next week or so we can have a special meeting. I apologize in advance for having to carve that time out.
Let's make absolutely sure, since you're working with them, that this is going to be a fundable item.
Trust me, I'm all over that one. Okay? Funding, if we move down the spreadsheet, funding motions, that other section, you see the $9,000 being reserved for tree removal. Okay. And then the stamps. I had a hold in encumbrance for $60 worth of stamps.
Only 5
I don't
people.
know if that's still relevant.
No, only
Okay.
stamps for 5 people.
Okay, thank you for that. I had that on my list. So there's slightly more. There should be about $3,600 available between now and the end of the year, our fiscal year, which again, to remind the public, is June 30. Okay.
But the 2,500 is not listed anywhere on the columns.
That's correct, because we would have to re-vote for that MPG.
So what you're saying then, the 3568, if this 2,500 goes to the PRCS, this is
1,000. That's correct. That's correct.
I have one other thing, I'm sorry.
Sure.
So there is something that we haven't ordered yet for, when we did Earth Day, we had in there in the budget, it was about $150-ish for supplies for the cleanup. It was like gloves and grabbers and stuff like that. I haven't purchased that stuff yet, so I don't know if you want to allocate that now or if we're just going to let it run through.
Was that for the cleanup that already occurred?
It was for the food. It was for the food. It was tied to the food. Remember we did the Baja Fresh for that cleanup? Yeah, so
It's separate from
At this
Thursday.
point,
It's separate
if we don't,
it's not
look,
tied to
if we
Earth Day.
need the items going forward, and they've been previously approved by the board, we should look at buying them.
Okay.
If we really no longer need
No,
them,
we do need those for ongoing cleanup.
Okay.
So just
Then-
want to let you know, there's another 150-ish, maybe say 100, I think it's about 160.
okay, that's fine.
That's already approved. I just need to order it.
And Andrew
I'll
also,
take care of getting that ordered.
I mean, just a second.
Just coordinate with me, please.
If they have already been approved, haven't you already accounted for it?
No, it's not spent.
That's what I
If
mentioned.
the money, if it hasn't been purchased and the money isn't actually spent,
Yeah.
then it's not on here.
It's been allocated.
No. I haven't, the only things I've allocated in terms of encumbrance in the system were Earth Day holds, mailer holds, tree project holds, and stamps. They've been peeling off as things that, as we move forward throughout the year, and purchases have not been made. I don't remember that. I don't remember those supplies. So let's get them back. Jason, get that stuff back into my list. I assume they're from Amazon.
No, it's from Harbor Freight.
Okay, send me that as soon as possible, please, and we'll get that
Do
stuff.
you want to order it, or should I just?
I'll do it.
You'll do it? Okay.
I'll do it.
We can do it online.
Andrew, the
Yes.
MCG line should be Friends of PRCS.
I know.
Okay.
Any other board questions? Thank you.
All right, item H, presentation from representatives of elected officials and government agencies. Colin? Joyce?
No, I'm good. Hey, everybody. I'm Colin Cruz, Senior Field Deputy for Councilmember Englander. I just got a couple of quick things. Councilmember is currently in the middle of budget season. going over it's on the Budget and Finance Committee, going over everything with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that we get proper funding here in the valley for street resurfacing, sidewalk repair program, tree trimming, and of course, funding to, help with the ongoing homeless crisis. So that's all in the works right now. Of course, the mayor presented his budget, and now the council is doing their part to see what we're going to come up with. Next up is recently the council member put in a motion to create a pilot program with DWP to put floating solar panels on DWP reservoirs. Obviously, being any way we can get off, fossil fuels, these sort of things is great. In theory, if this was to be carried out, the solar panels on the reservoirs could create, don't hold me to this because I'm not a DWP guy, but I think it's 11 megawatts of power, which would supply power to a community of like 3,000 homes for up to a year. So we're trying, there was a press conference out at the reservoir over here near Granada Hills recently. It was a great event. And we're really hopeful that when the pilot program goes forward, that will be the reservoir that they will test this program out on. That's really all I got for you guys right now.
Although, if I may, I just saw a motion from today from Councilman Englander, and I appreciate it. It's basically to being fed up with the street racing and the situation, and calling on the LSPD and City Attorney's Office to look for any mechanism to either increase enforcement or increase penalties.
Well, the new thing is the donuts and the intersections. I guess street racing is now out of vogue, and now we just like to drive in circles and intersections.
So I appreciate the motion.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you know, in Chatsworth, we did install, it's been a little over a year ago, maybe even a year and a half ago, we put in these things called rumble strips, which aren't speed bumps, because speed bumps can, first responders don't really like speed bumps because it slows them down, obviously. If there's a fire and the fire truck has to go over the speed bumps, they don't really like those. So what we did in Chatsworth, again, it was a pilot program, was we installed rumble strips that don't really allow cars to get traction, and they're just, it's annoying to drive over at high speeds. And we did it over on Plummer in Chatsworth, and it's been pretty effective, but it's a much narrower street. Like to do a street like Mason out here, it's really not practical because of the width of the street. And then again, up here on Cessnon, again, the street is very wide, and the rumble strips aren't quiet, which is part of the reason folks don't want to, race over them. Because they are loud, so residents up on the hill there probably wouldn't love. I know they don't love the street racing, but they probably wouldn't love the rumble strips either. But we've been working on that issue for a while, and I think CD12 is the first place that the rumble strips were installed, I believe.
With the new 222 program, has the councilman decided where he wants to hold or own the homeless?
No. We do not have a set location.
The ideas of looking.
Oh, as your friendly neighborhood homeless field deputy here, we're looking at all sorts of things. There is not a lot of open city property here in CD12. There's a lot of DWP property, but it's under power lines. So you can't do anything under power lines as far as people living. There's not a lot of city-owned vacant lots in CD12 at all, frankly, and then where they are is not practical at all, like on a block, So these are ongoing discussions that are happening. I think the council member did sign on to the 222 plan. We are moving forward as quickly as possible, trying to determine where things could go. And then once a property is, when and if we find something, then the whole process really, that's when it really begins, because that's when we come to, if it was at the ranch, or you, or wherever, and begin, extensive outreach about what was going to happen. But nothing's set.
Can you explain to everybody what the 222 plan is, so they know?
The 222 plan is it's not really even it's not not like a city ordinance or anything. It's something that all of the council members have agreed to, which is to provide 222 units of supportive housing per council member. So it's fair. All 15 get 222. The council member has said that is something he wants to move forward on. Because we don't have a lot of that out here in the valley. But nothing has been finalized as far as location or anything like that. So it's a worthy goal that we're working towards, but there's nothing set in stone.
Colin?
Yes, ma'am.
When you say, so it's permanent supportive housing, not a temporary shelter, is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, so we do
But I don't like
have,
to use the word permanent because it gets people, it kind of gives people the wrong idea. Yes, somebody could live there for an extended period of time, but all of these places are intended to get people back up on their feet into employment if at all possible. And then they, could they be there a year or more? They could, but I know that when we say, I prefer supportive housing than permanent supportive because then there's connotations with that.
It's like 6 to 12 months.
so it won't be like the PATH facility on Sherman Way, which is Winnetka Village, which looks like an apartment complex. It's not like that.
No, it could be, yeah.
Okay, because that's a beautiful complex. You
Yeah.
would drive by there and you would never know it's anything other than a beautiful apartment complex.
Had a fabulous meeting today. It was a very long meeting with United Way and some other council offices and Supervisor Kuehl's office. And you're absolutely right. These facilities are, you wouldn't be able to pick them out amongst the other buildings on the block.
In fact, they look nicer than some apartment complexes.
They absolutely do. They
Absolutely.
absolutely do. So, yes, thank you. Yes, sir.
Yes, so back to the temporary shelter, part of the $20 million that the mayor is putting together. Have you allocated property for
No,
that?
nothing has been decided on property at all.
Okay.
This is something that our planning folks are looking at. Something, the council member has asked the neighborhood councils that if you have any ideas about properties, please get them to us. But nothing has been locked down. So I'm not going to get in front of my skis with all that. It is something that we are working towards. It's something that we are hoping that we can do. But there is no set properties.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Braymore needs to be cut down, all the weeds, again off of Braymore.
Okay.
Okay, and also, is there any way Reseda Boulevard from Cessna all the way to Rinaldi can be repaved? There's so many potholes, and over the years, it's just been filled, and it's not helping.
Well,
Take
you asked the right person, because before I did homelessness, I did the streets and sidewalk program out here. So just to give you some information on that, that's part of what's going on with the budget right now. Is the council members in there making sure that we get our fair share of mileage of street resurfacing every year. Reseda is a very big street. Obviously, we have our neighborhood streets that need addressing too. So what the Bureau of Street Services does every year is it takes the requests that they receive from our office from the previous fiscal year, and they compile a resurfacing program for us. And within that program, so we'll get a set amount of miles of resurfacing essentially. So within that program, they have to balance it between like neighborhood streets and then big streets like Reseda. So we'll get a handful of big thoroughfares like Reseda or like Balboa just got done, and then we'll get neighborhood streets, and then the funding will come from different places. Most of it comes from your gas tax. So the Bureau puts together our resurfacing program for the year, and then that's what they will do throughout the year. We don't have final say-so on what goes into the program. It used to be years ago, the council members would go in and say, I want this street repaved, which, that obviously leads to problems, because then it's, somebody's putting their finger on the scale, and, there's, you can theoretically, your neighbor could get their street repaved because he knows the right person or whatever. So it's not a political process anymore, except when it comes to allocating the money to make sure that we get enough money to do what we need done. But I will talk, my colleague Jonathan has picked up the banner for me with street repair, so I will mention Reseda to him from Rinaldi to
Cessna.
Yes, I'll arm wrestle for it, do it.
So is there a division, pothole division? Because, our streets are by far better than most of Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And I drive throughout everywhere. But is there a pothole division? Because I mean, that's.
Small asphalt repair.
Okay, is that required, can you do that through 311?
311 is that, I mean, you are welcome to call our office.
They come out.
Talk to Jonathan, but he's going to report it to 311.
Okay.
And that is, you know, if it becomes a persistent thing, like you reported 6 times and it's still not getting filled, you know, definitely call us because there might be a bigger issue. But typically the Bureau can fill a pothole within 48 hours.
I remember years ago, I mean, you'd see the guys, pothole, boom, gone, pothole, good.
Yeah.
Just a little cruiser went out and just nailed it.
And it's gotten better, you know, over the years. You know, when I first started, it was kind of slow to get potholes filled, and then it's gotten better as far as filling potholes. Now that, you know, there's potholes and there's potholes. You know, like sealing cracks in streets is kind of a different issue than a pothole. But potholes, street services can fill within about 48 hours. And honestly, you can call us, you're welcome to call us. You can also just report it to 311.
Okay, thank you.
I believe it's the White Streets or the Light Streets program where they're doing the, is there anything up here that's slated to be part of this pilot program?
You know, I don't know. I think that program, I believe that was in CD3. I don't think that was in CD4.
You talking about cool pavements?
Yeah, the cool pavement,
It's
yeah.
Balboa Park.
Okay, so,
That's part of the presentation.
Well, just the short answer is yes, there is one block in CD12 that's been paved with this pool sealant. And it's a pilot project with Bureau of Street Services. And right now, all 15 council districts except for 7 have received their pilot street. And then they're looking at the cost benefit analysis and looking at scaling. So there's a few different private contractors that do kind of cool seal. We'll talk about it in the presentation.
I told you I'm out of the street business. So.
We keep pulling you back in, I don't know why.
I didn't think we had one in CD12 yet.
Actually, we'll show you in the presentation in your district.
Coming attractions.
Anything else for Tom? Yes, thanks for being here.
Sure.
We see a lot of issues in terms of accidents. I was wondering, we have had lots of pictures among the board members being exchanged. What can we do? Who should we talk to see what is it? I think the main reason is speeding, but I'm not sure. But there is just so many accidents. There were 2 of them today. One around 9:30 in the morning, my side, and one around 2:30. Most of them are between Rinaldi and say Tampa in that stretch, but they also are in other areas.
It would depend on what the issue is. If it's speeding, then obviously it would be an enforcement issue. You can talk to Matthew Hernandez in our office. He's our public safety deputy. If you're seeing problems, like I know you guys have a turn arrow issue somewhere, right?
There's 3, but did you see, I don't know if you saw the crowd at the street business.
I'm not, well, that's not streets anyway, that's DOT, that's totally separate.
The DOT just came back, and they concurred through study that westbound Rinaldi and southbound Wilbur does need, and is approved now for a left turn arrow.
Oh, good.
Pending funding.
They're not inexpensive.
So, I don't know if CD12, the office can, wrestle, push, drop, whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. Eric Moody is our deputy that handles DOT issues.
Right,
so if, so again, whatever you're feeling what's causing the accidents, whether it's a lack of a turn arrow or need of a stop sign or a stop light, or if it's just speeding, those are the 2 guys in our office that you probably need to talk to.
Let me also comment on the Rinaldi and Amigo intersection. I had a conversation with the DOT engineer. We've been barking up the wrong tree. The light on Amigo and Rinaldi is not under the jurisdiction of the streets because it is an exit ramp of a highway. By default, all lights on exit ramps and entrance ramps are controlled by the Caltrans. They make the work on them because they need them to control traffic on the highway. So the city engineer told me that they have been in long conversation with Caltrans about fixing that. They know that Caltrans has a project to work on that light, but Caltrans moves at Caltrans pace. So, but the bottom line is, the light on Amigo and Rinaldi is not a city light, it is a Caltrans light.
A correction is no. It's a maintenance agreement. The north side portions, the city of LA maintains and controls. The south portion, which is next to the VCR, beginning of the current.
Any changes in the timing of the light, I was told, are under
You were told
council's
wrong. It's controlled by the EDSAC group, and they are the ones that they were CC'd in the same email with
to the gentleman that you sent the email to. So we'll have to figure it
Why
out.
don't we agendize this, put a letter together, put it on the next month's meeting? I think it's a very important issue.
Okay.
Yes, did you talk to the assemblyman? Because he was a great help with us when we had.
I just talked to the DOT engineer to understand where DOT is on it, that's all I've done.
Who did you talk
The
to?
assembly, our
Yeah.
assembly person has been excellent in helping us with this group.
I need the traffic and safety committee to do that.
We will.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
Can you do me a favor and, tell the councilman, put in a good word for Jesse Strobel and for Jonathan Cotto, because they were a big help with us, not only on the YMCA cleanup, but the Earth Day, and Jonathan Cotto has been help pushing this tree thing through, him along with a lot of other people. So good news is next week we're slated to be doing that big project.
Great. Absolutely. Well, thank you.
Put in a good word for them,
That's
they
well,
help.
thank you.
Lori?
I had a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Devonshire and Balboa, there was a huge encampment just before the fire station, and it's been reported from 311, there was several, anyway, they went out there today to finish up.
Amazing how that
I was
works.
wondering, was that pushed through, because we were told to push 2 more days.
I
I'm so happy.
got home last night at around 9:30, and I turned on the Facebook, and there was this whole post about it, and I sent it over to the task force, and they got to it today.
Thank you so much.
So,
Okay, I'll let you know.
and on issues like that, feel free to report it to 311. But unlike a pothole, the council member has set up this special task force to do it for homelessness. So it combines parking enforcement if necessary for talking about RVs, the Bureau of Sanitation, and the LAPD boat team. Our task force is funded from our office funds. They are only for CD 12. So when you report to 311, it's going out to the system. They're putting it in the correct box to be addressed in a timely manner, so to speak. If you send it to me, I send it straight to our assigned task force that we pay for. And that's why they were able to get out there so quickly today. Now, it doesn't always work that way. Just because you send it to me, I can't guarantee you they're going to be out there to clean it up the next day. But they can get to it probably quicker than the 311 process.
And this is in a different district, and I apologize. In your Martinez district, there's a bunch of carts that are in the alley
Yeah.
over by rescue home.
Yeah.
And the problem she's saying is that the carts have their stuff in the carts, and apparently it can't be resolved because the stuff is the stuff, and the carts are the carts, and like all the different systems aren't working.
But it's not in our district?
It's not in our district. No,
It's not in his district
I know.
either, so...
No. So I really appreciate that he jumped right on this because this other issue has been going on for weeks over in the other district. So thank you.
Sure, absolutely.
That's where we're going.
All right, thank you, Colin.
That it? Okay, you're good. Thanks, y'all.
Okay, item 9.
No other government.
Item 9 is general public comment on items not on the agenda. Go ahead. Not on the agenda, right?
Good evening, everyone. As you know me, Dave Geringer, Assistant Principal at Castleberry Lane. I just want to thank you for your meeting last month. We received our support. We've already put it to good use. We've got, that will support 2 teams. We've got probably 40 to 60 people already on the waiting list that's basically knocking our door down to expand the program. Okay? So I'm working with the parent president at Castleberry. We're working with other schools, mainly to get expertise, CSUN, Chaminade, and my point is parents are calling and faxing and whatever they can do to get their teams, get their students, their children on the teams, but we're following the criteria so that everyone has an equal playing field. But my point is, first thing, thank you, and number 2, I want to report how much interest this has generated. Okay?
Other public comment? Please.
Good evening, council members and community members. My name is Christy Smith, and I came to introduce myself to you briefly this evening. I am your candidate for the 38th Assembly District, which is all of Santa Clarita, of course, Porter Ranch, and extending all the way out to Simi Valley. Some of you may recognize my name. I did run in the 2016 cycle, running again in 2018. I'm eager to represent this community, and I think of the most significant things you should know about me is I am the only candidate in this race to have pledged not to take any fossil fuel money, particularly because of what your community has been through with Aliso Canyon. That will continue throughout my career, throughout my service, and until we get this issue resolved. I've been very active in following what's going on. I went to both of Dr. Nordella's health presentations and plan to stay actively engaged with the community, along with working with Senator Henry Stern in support of this community's needs and interests. Beyond that, you can find out more information about me at christysmith4assembly.com. But your first opportunity to vote was coming up right around the corner. It'll be June 5th and then again in November. So please feel free to reach out to me through my website. I look forward to continuing to engage with the Porter Ranch community, and I'd appreciate your support. Thank you so much.
Please.
Do you guys mind if I address in the front, or do I have to address the microphone?
It's an address to the board, so...
Oh, okay, great. Hello, everyone. My name is Carlos Phoenix. Jess Phoenix, who's running for U.S. Congress, unfortunately couldn't make it today, so she set me in place of her. And I just wanted to tell you guys that she's running in the 25th District, so you guys have a chance to elect a geologist, a environmental scientist, someone who can address things like the Aliso Canyon gas leak that happened. Jess and I both co-founded an organization called Blueprint Earth. It's an environmental research organization. And during one of our trips out to the Mojave Desert, the Aliso Canyon leak happened, and one of the people that came out to our field excursion in the Mojave Desert was affected by the gas leak. And this shouldn't be allowed to happen. Jess is in favor of shutting down the facility. In addition to that, she wants to bring a green technology job to the district and innovate what we can do. So we innovate how we live in harmony with our planet, then we'll be less dependent on things like the Aliso Canyon natural gas deposits. So she wanted just to have me come here to let you guys know that she's going to be at the Simi Valley Street Fair on Saturday from 1 to 3, and she's going to have a meet and greet next week on Wednesday from 5:30 to 6:30. So there'll be more opportunities for you guys to meet her if you haven't already. You can learn more at our website, chess2018.com. And if you have any questions, I'll be here afterwards as well. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Please.
My name is Fabiola Strickland. Sorry. And I live here in Porter Ranch. Obviously, I'm affected by the gas leak. But I'm also being affected by the overcharging of the DWP. I've contacted everyone, all the council people, all the mayor, and no one has helped me. We've been charged thousands and thousands of dollars for thousands of gallons that we haven't used. So I need to find out who I can contact to get that rectified.
Okay.
You can contact Ron Rubin in our office. He's our liaison to DWP.
I've done that. And that means nothing at all.
Can we catch you at the break?
Sure.
And get your information?
Sure.
Any other public comment? All right, thank you. Item 10, Ms. Hernandez, please.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Do I need the mic there?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
See how far you can take it out if you want. Careful. Let me help you.
That's okay, I'll talk loud. Here we go, we're good. Okay, we're good. Thank you. Sorry.
That's all it is.
That's it.
Okay, no, we're good. I just don't want to come back. No, don't worry. Okay, good. Okay, well, good evening. I'm Linda Hernandez. I'm with the City Attorney's Office. I work for the Victim Assistance Program.
I love the mic.
Love it, okay. Better, okay. I'm with the City Attorney's Office, the Victim Assistance Program. So I just want to take a few minutes and let you guys know about our program and some of the services that are available to victims of crime. So again, I work for the Victim Assistance Program. I'm located out of LAPD Devonshire Station. We do have advocates at every station, but I'm at Devonshire. So our program offers services to victims of violent crimes. One service we offer is court support. So if you or someone you know is a victim of a crime, so these are things like assaults, domestic violence, hit and runs, robberies. If you or someone you know is a victim of a crime, you need to go to court. Sometimes they need to testify or be interviewed by prosecutors. We can assist with that. We can go with you just to make sure what you know what you can expect when you get there. Just even to know where you're going. The courthouse is a big place. So that's something that we do offer. And also I do work at detectives at Devonshire, so if you or someone you know is wanting a case status update or have questions for the detective on your case, I work directly with them so we can make sure you're getting that information that you need. So that's one service we offer. We also do have a list of resources and referrals in our community, so if you're needing mental health counseling, if you're needing a shelter, legal aid, we want to make sure we're getting you in touch with the appropriate people that can help you through it. So that's one other thing. Another big thing that I think is really helpful, we do help in applying for the Victims of Crime Compensation Program. If you don't know about that, it is a state-funded program, and it helps to reimburse victims of crime for crime-related expenses. So if these are things like if you had to go to a doctor or to a hospital after the crime occurred, we want to make sure we're getting some of that money reimbursed to you. The program does offer 40 sessions of mental health counseling that we can help pay for. There's things like income loss if you missed work due to the crime. If you're a victim of domestic violence, there is a relocation benefit, so it's up to $2,000 for moving costs to get you somewhere safe. Same thing for sexual assault. There's things if there is a death due to the crime, there is $7,500 for funeral and burial costs that we can try to help out with. There are other little things like home security systems to help you feel a little bit more secure after a crime occurs, things like that. But the gist of it is we want to make sure that you're getting whatever assistance you can after something like this happens. So the only requirements for the program is that you're a victim of a crime and you report it to the police and you cooperate with law enforcement. And it can't be like you can't have contributed to the crime, so it's like a mutual combat thing. We might run into some issues, but those are really the only requirements. So again, I'm at Devonshire. We do have advocates at every LAPD station. We do have an app, the Victim Assistance Program. If you go on there, you just put in your name and your address, and it'll send an alert to the nearest advocate, and we can reach out to you within 48 hours. Also a website that has the same info. And that's the gist of what we do. So we just want to make sure that our communities are aware that there are services that are available to you if you are a victim, happen to become a victim of a crime. So please reach out if you or anyone you know is in need of assistance. Does anyone have any questions for me?
What's the duration? I'm sure you're aware sometimes people are victimized and don't really realize and report it for a long time.
Right. So it's 3 years. Unless it was a sexual assault, if you're a sexual assault when you're a minor, you have until you're 28 to report it. So 10 years after you become an adult to report it. But yeah, it's generally 3 years otherwise.
Thank you.
Sure. Anyone have any other questions?
Is there a website or that we can find this, or is there also, if we want to put information on our website about these programs?
Yes, absolutely. The website is helpLACrimeVictims.org. There's also a link to it on the City Attorney's Office website, but it is helpLACrimeVictims.org.
Is there a link off of the Trevor 17's your app?
You know what? I don't know. I have to check with the media person there, but
If not, you should put it on there.
Yeah, that's a good
idea. Put it on there.
yeah, no, that's a great idea. I know we are on there. I don't know if we're on the app. I have to check.
Including the letter of
Any other questions for Senator?
I
Shall we start from one side to the other, or
Sure.
alphabetically, or what?
One second.
Susan.
So this includes our committees?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Other than what's already on the agenda for another time. Know what I mean?
Okay, right. So Homelessness Solutions Committee, exciting news.
You want the mic?
Yes.
Here.
Do gymnastics.
Looks like it's like hot.
Okay, all right. Stay behind. Okay, so I'm the co-chair of the Homelessness Solutions Committee along with David Balin. And as you recall, we gave $5,000 Puerto Rico Chamber of Council as an NPG grant to Clean Streets, Clean Starts. And I'm excited to tell you that we started our program Tuesday. Pictures here. So can we pass these around? Okay. So we had 9 participants that we originally vetted and did background checks on, and most of them came from Hope in the Valley. They had already been volunteering there. These are homeless individuals. Of course, we vetted them for background checks, criminal checks, things like that. And so 5 showed up in the first day. We had breakfast at Pillars Cafe, thanks to David, because he got us a special deal for $5 breakfast sandwiches and free coffee. So we fed them really well, and then we went out to Rinaldi between Tampa and Corbin, south on Tampa to the freeway. We cleaned, we trimmed, picked up trash, and we're very visible. As you can see in those pictures, we wear these bright yellow vests that say Clean Streets, Clean Starts. We got a lot of like honks and thumbs up and whatnot for cleaning up the community. And then afterwards, we all came back to Pillars Cafe, and they got their $25 gift card for for food, for either Walmart 99 cents, or they could also get a gas card if they had a car, and bus tokens so they could get back to wherever they're staying temporarily. They all did really well. They were real go-getters, really hard workers. And this is a 6-week program. It was going to be Tuesdays and Thursdays. Now it's Tuesdays and Fridays. So this Friday, if you're free at 7 o'clock, between 7 and 7:45, we'd love to see you at Pillars Cafe. You can have some coffee. You can meet them. We'd love if you come, and especially board members, come and shake their hands and say, hey, we're really glad you're in our community. We're really glad you want to clean up and clean up our streets. And it would just be a real, I think, a morale builder if some of our board members could come out. I know David was there again, Jason stopped by, so that would be really terrific. Again, a 6-week program. The last date is June 15th. As we go through this program, in fact, starting Friday after the work is done, we start right away on their resumes, and whether that's handwritten or wherever they are, wherever they can be, we get them back on to focus on getting a job. In fact, we found out at the Pillars Cafe, they have some entry-level positions. They have line cooks, they have maintenance workers, they have dishwashers. Los Toros is a restaurant that has hired some dishwashers in the past. So again, these are folks that are ready to come back into society, off the streets, and we're just really, really excited about this program. And again, I want to thank the board for voting for that MPG to kick this off and get this started.
Susan, can I ask you a quick question?
Yes, 7 a.m., 7 a.m., yes.
So when it's 2 days, do they get the gift card each day?
They get it each day after they've worked 3 hours.
After they work 3 hours?
Correct. That's where most of the money, the money went to the 501c3, but that is the bulk of where that money goes, sure.
And then, so if we have it left over, then we're going to do another cycle?
Correct. If only, we had a couple, there were 4 people that didn't show up. 2 of them had some issues that are understandable. So again, it's really to pay for 10 people altogether. So if we only have 5 this time, we'll have money to do another cycle. Don Larson is keeping track of our funds that we have given, and so if we are owed another cycle, we will get another cycle. We have a sign-in sheet. It's very well organized and very well accounted for.
And then my other question was, the people that are in the program, are any of them from Porter Ranch, or where do they live?
They're all from the Valley.
Okay.
They're born and raised in the Valley.
Okay.
Yeah. Sustainability Committee is on a break from our Big Earth Day until Tuesday, June 19th. That will be our next meeting. And then the Ad Hoc Committee, Aliso Canyon, is on break until after August. after the announcement of CARB, of communities that are going to be selected for fence line and air monitoring. We will regroup if we find out we're not one of those neighborhoods that will be funded in the first year under AB 617. And that's it.
So I'll just go down my list. Been working with Caltrans a little bit lately, and they're very responsive, and so I just wanted to let you know that the potholes between Tampa and Porter Ranch Drive that have been there forever on the freeway have been filled, and I've been working with them on getting the on-ramps and off-ramps cleaned up. The Tampa overpass was cleared during the cleanup, and now there's a bunch of trash and debris off the side on the on-ramp that I'm working with them to get cleaned up, as well as some of the tree trimmings. But if there's some request from Caltrans, I'm glad to put it in the system, because the supervisor then will call you back and work with you to get what you need done with Caltrans. So out of all the requests that I put in, Caltrans is very responsive. So if there's some specific request, I'd be happy to put that in the maintenance request system, or if it's beyond that, we can work through that. Some other ideas I came up with, I think it's important when we do things in the community to leverage that from an outreach standpoint. So one of the ideas I was talking to Susan about is using our stickers for when we have all these bags of trash, just putting the PRNC sticker on there so people realize that this is from PRNC, that we're doing this cleanup in our community. Otherwise, nobody knows who's doing this work. And I'll talk about more when we get to the trees. But that's very important. Also, I wanted to speak about the retreat. Hopefully we can get some dates set for the retreat and planning going for it. I think this is a very important part of what we do. I'd like to see a budget discussion either in a budget committee or at the retreat. I think we got to get that going, so I'd like to hear what the plan is. I guess Esau, you're probably in charge of setting that, or for the retreat?
No, nothing has been assigned to anybody yet, so.
Okay. So maybe we can agendize it or something? Okay. Well, I will volunteer to do it, but if anyone else wants to, I think a couple people would be good to work on the retreat. There's a lot of planning involved, but I'd like to have a successful retreat. I think it helps a lot, setting our goals and everything. I think we got a lot out of it last year. I wanted to talk about the clean starts. I just want to mention, the group that was out there cleaning, was a really focused group. These guys were all business. They were cleaning and doing a great job. So I'm really glad that we have something like this going on, and it was very successful. And then, let's see, what else do I have? Oh, okay. One of the things I would recommend at this time now is to set a date for our next Earth Day, if possible, because I can get the trees for next year if we do these things, so we can do certain things ahead of time. So, like, we talked about different things like getting the DWP solar panels, or getting the mascot, or getting the trees. These things, if we set a date and put it in place. So my recommendation is let's iron out a date right now and do some preliminary appointments or requests, and then that way, when we get to the 6 months before the event, or we can even apply for the permit. Let's get some things out of the way. That way, because I feel like it's going to be bigger and better next year. And this time, what we're going to talk about on the agenda, but that's my point for next year. Let's try and set a date. All right? Good.
All right, for the safety committee, so Gabriel, David, and myself still continue to work close with the LAPD on multiple issues. There has been increased LAPD presence in Porter Ranch, which helped in the reduction of break-ins, especially car break-ins and all that. In regards to accidents, we've seen improvement west of Tampa because of the fact that all the ordinances were signed and adopted by LAPD. So later guns, later equipment is used for the speeders, and there was close to 70% reduction in accidents. East of Tampa, unfortunately, there are still problems. Up to this morning, there is a couple still more accidents. And we are trying to push hard with LADOT. I talked last week to the gentleman in charge of the Vision Zero, Nat Gale, and we will try to see how we get funding through that program to the other locations that the board received a letter regards today this morning. Besides that, few of our board members were part of the LAPD Devonshire Station open house, and we got the tours and we got to talk to a lot of the officers around there. And we're planning our meeting in the next couple of weeks. Gabriel is trying to work on a date. Thank you. All right, first of all, I just want to say everybody thank you for coming. To the board members especially, we have next few months are vacation weeks for majority of us. So if you can, all of you, email me, let me know what days you can't be here so we can make sure we have quorums for the meetings instead of wasting everybody else's time. Show up and there's no quorum. That's very important, especially June, July, and August meetings. If you guys can let us know if you're here or not. Next, I'm very disappointed at the Vinlands project, and the reason is because it seems like the media knows more than we do. I believe the council should know, Vineyard. The council should know more about what's going on compared to us finding out from the media, especially as the news stores and et cetera going in. So hopefully they can read our minutes, John Love can read the minutes, and actually come here and express to us exactly who's going in instead of me going online and reading about it. And my last concern is still Cessna and Mason. We've done everything we can to make the corner safer for the children crossing, but it seems like the parents don't want to cooperate, and council offices and DOT and every other agency does not want to cooperate in making that intersection safer. So I'm not sure what we're waiting for, but eventually someone's going to get killed there, and unfortunately it will be a kid crossing the street. I've been almost run over multiple times in that intersection trying to take the kids to school and picking them up. The lighting needs to be changed there. Those trucks leaving the construction site have no regards to the red light or green light because the light does not even involve them. It's three-way light, I believe, up there in that intersection. And parents triple parking and other parents trying to go around the corner from the middle of the intersection. And there's no public safety in that intersection. And we really need to enforce and spread the news around that children's lives come first, instead of us trying to rush home to work and wherever else we're going. As well as the same intersection is known for racing and the donuts. We are trying to get the rumble strips there, but that's in the project itself as well. Hopefully Councilmember Englander can do something about the intersection, because we really need something in that intersection, especially with how many hundreds of homes going down, you know? Under the homes on the other side. So it's going to get worse. Anyways, thank you. Thank you. Good evening. Comment on the retreat and the retreat process. Please come to the retreat. It is your turn to tell us what projects that are being presented are important to you. Also to present projects we may have not thought about. If you don't come, we of course can't read your mind. I would like to ask again for the board members and the committees that the work for the retreat should already be happening in your committees. You should already be thinking about projects, events, or items, supplies that you need for next fiscal year. That work happens in your committees. That is then brought to the retreat and presented in the quote-unquote hopper of all the items that we discuss as a broader board. So please make sure that work is ongoing. For Earth Day, I would just strongly advise we are going to have our normal budget next year of, at the moment, $42,000. I would look for
funding partner, another NC or multiple NCs to help defer the cost of the wonderful event. For the stakeholders, just keep in mind, we're coming up on summer. You're going to start hearing the dreaded news that we, of course, are not going to have any power because we're not using Aliso Canyon. Please keep an eye out for that. Please know that it's all a game. It's all calculated. Please call your council member, call your senator, call your assemblyman, call us. Do your due diligence. Stand up for yourself, stand up for your family, stand up for your health, stand up for your well-being. Don't just sit back and take it. We are at ground zero. We need to continue to work together until the end, until we, of course, hopefully get rid of that facility and can restore some manner of health to our community. Thank you all again for being here.
Good evening, and thank you for coming. I'm David Balin. I'm going to speak to you tonight regarding the land use. There's a lot of things going on up here in Porter Ranch. We can start with Toll Brothers. Toll Brothers they're in full swing. They're selling their properties like hotcakes right now, and we're going to have an issue. Just to let you know, with a lot of people that are up here, this particular school in general has already been. They've already told the parents that a lot of the students are not going to be able to come back here next year. Unfortunately, we're going to be ending our permits because there's no room. We have a new building that's going to be coming up here, but we're going to be pretty much at capacity with a little over 1,200 kids. I'm here, I'm on the board of this school. I'm well aware of the situation. We might not even be having another KDLP program for the middle school. We might just cease that program. But good news is, like I said, Toll Brothers is moving forward. I did find out that the development just north of the Toll Brothers project, I can't think of the name of it right this second. No. Didn't know. Hidden Creek. Hidden Creek was sold, and it's owned by Starwood. I have sent a letter to Starwood to see what their position is and what they plan to do with the property. So when I hear back from them, I'll give you a heads up on that. Now, as for the vineyard, I speak to John Love quite a bit, and Frank Sue, who oversees Toll Brothers. John has informed me that it's really not up to him to let the community know what tenants are going to be going in there. The tenants have decided that they want to let it out when they feel that it's fit, when everything's said and done. I can tell you, I'm sure you are aware that the AMC is going to be going in there. We got the Nordstrom Rack going in there. We got the ULTA going in there. I know that we're very close to finalizing Lure, so we'll see. Keep your fingers crossed, because Lure's a nice fish restaurant.
Oh, okay.
So keep your fingers crossed. There's not going to be a Mastro's. There's not going to be a Mastro's. There's going to be someone very similar to a Mastro's, but for a while people were talking about Mastro's, so no Mastro's. I can tell you that we will be having a grand opening in May of 2019, so it's going to be coming up quick. And then on the other hand, you've got Kaiser facility that will be opening up at the end of the year. So things are going to be moving quickly. So thank you. Yes?
My question is, what's going to go into the old Whole Foods?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. And then just to give an update regarding the Porter Ranch Center that we have, there is a Burlington Coat Factory going in there in the sports chalet area, and then there's a new store for young ladies called Five Below. So, yes.
I had a question. There's a lot of talk online. Can anybody suggest stores to?
Of course.
Of
course.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, and you can, I'm sure everybody knows their website. It's www.thevineyards.com.
Chrissy tried that.
Or you guys can email me, and I can put it in John's ear. I love it.
Good evening. Just a quick comment on the work that Susan is doing with the homeless committee. I've got a lot of very positive comments from those folks who are really familiar.
No, it's Susan.
So thank you so much, Susan. I mean, she is really dedicating a lot of time to this, and I've seen it close. I've been part of the discussions and the work that is going on the street. I mean, people have noticed it in the last meeting that we had. People were making good comments, and actually, one of my next door neighbors made a comment about it. Yeah, I saw those guys on the street, so I kind of explained what's going on, and it's a wonderful program. I hope we can support this program with more funding next year, and I think it's going to be good for us.
So I want to let the community know, Susan and her family, when we do our outreach, where we go into the canyon and we get to know the homeless that are residing in our community, where we feed them, Susan and her family literally make the food. I mean, they take their time, their day, their love, and they make the food that we deliver. And I have to applaud you, and it's beautiful, and I thank you for that.
Hi, everybody. I went to the basic car meeting. There's a basic car meeting, I'm not sure if you're aware of it, for those folks who live east of Tampa. And it's Dario's first basic car. I used to be the chairperson of that basic car, so two of my friends are here. Oh, Mary left, but oh, there they are, okay. And they were with me last night at the meeting, and I just wanted to let everyone know that Dario reported that crime is down in Devonshire, crimes to property, and crimes theft, and property crimes, and vehicle theft crimes are down. And one of the things that we want to impress upon people is to keep vigilant with your neighborhood watch efforts. Know who's in your neighborhood. Don't leave anything in your car that you ever want to see again, because when they see it, they break the window and they take the stuff. But we're in a really good time right now, especially east of Tampa. I did go to the one west of Tampa, but this neighborhood council has two basic cars that serve these two areas. And I have a whole bunch of pamphlets for you, so hopefully you'll pick one up on the way out. Thank you.
David, I got it, but I want to give accolades to our Devonshire division. Just so you know, the community, we have over 200 people that participate assisting the Devonshire division to keep our community safe, and all different entities of the community. So I want to thank the community, everybody that helps out with the Devonshire division. And then as well, if you want to learn more about what's going on in the community, get on the app. Get the app for the Devonshire division. It'll give you all the statistics that you need, and it'll also let you, if you see a crime, you can go on the app and notify them. Thank you.
Here's the crime stats if you want.
Make it quick because we're behind schedule. I would like everybody to respect the time that we have. The mail-in survey is out. We've been receiving responses back. We're about 150 plus. I'm not happy with the quality of the printout that FedEx Kinkos did, and I will make sure I let them know about that. But we're getting them back. And I'm just going to say one item. The energy liability workshop was yesterday. In my opinion, it was a very, very good workshop for us. And there was a lot of positive discussion going on. Everybody's working hard on working on our side, in my opinion, and the gas company is getting isolated. And so I'm very, very happy with how the meeting went yesterday. And I had my 10 minutes and I took most advantage of it, and that's it.
I hate to press you on this, but you had 10 minutes. Can you share what you discussed with us?
I sent the presentation to all the board members, and we will be posting the presentation that I did on our website as part of the report on that workshop. All right.
Can I say one quick thing?
Go ahead.
On the mail-in survey, you said you're very unhappy with FedEx. Can we ask them to reduce what we pay, or give us, if we decide to use them again, a discount or something in lieu of them making it not a good quality mailer for us?
Okay.
I think that's not unreasonable. This is taxpayer money,
Okay.
and we should explain that to them.
All right, thank you. Jennifer has to leave. Okay. Susan?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm going to ask you if you can make it a 5-minute.
Okay.
I want to get back on schedule.
So, I got feedback from Earth Day, and so I'm just going to go quickly through. Subway sandwiches was excellent. They delivered on time. They were fabulous. Follow Your Heart vegan food was well received, although they don't deliver, and they didn't have any plate utensils or serving tongs, so in the future we're not going to use a vendor that doesn't deliver, although I like the vegan option for people. Water was popular, so popular we ran out, so next year we'll have someone go down again, schedule someone to go down again and get filtered water. Popcorn maker was great, but there was a little concern about using the solar-powered battery generator, but I went to another Chatsworth Nature Preserve Earth Day open house and found out LADWP has a mobile solar-powered system that if we request it in time, we can use it for our next Earth Day, so we won't have that concern anymore. We'll get the $400 deposit back. We left the park clean. Let's see, we were a little concerned about the recycled cans. They were cardboard. We were afraid they'd blow away and then we wouldn't get our deposit back. So maybe have ropes next time to secure those down to a tree or whatnot. No one got a ticket for parking on Cessnon, but I did find out that Mitch Englander can do a motion like he did at this event. This is a motion he wrote. Special event, Break the Silence, 6K, run walk for Las Virgenes. He's asking that relaxed parking enforcement be done. So next year I'll be asking CD12 to do that. I was not aware they could do that. So we'll do that next year. I think the venue overall was great. Lots of space to fly the kites and to have all of the all of the nonprofits. The layout of the tables, everyone had shade. I sent every tabling organization a personal thank you email and pictures. Some feedback I got. One of the tablers got sunburned because the sun shifted. They were sort of barely under the shade, so we may have to think about getting more shade next year. Some more feedback was some people in the back with their own pop-up tents felt like they were isolated and weren't part of the whole, so we may have to kind of reconfigure that to make people all feel included. Let's see, recycle relay game was good. YMCA volunteers were amazing. They said that worked really well. We had a lot of participants for the scavenger hunt. Again, that worked out really well. Kite making was fabulous, he saw. I think we should do that again next year. That was really good. Passport game was a hit. Unfortunately, some of the organizations didn't bring their stickers, although I sent out 2 emails and said, let me know if you don't have stickers. You know, some people forgot, so maybe next year we may provide stickers. There's a very easy way to do it with Avery's stickers and their logo. So we may just provide those for everybody next year. Next year, some feedback was maybe we could have petting, like a small petting zoo. And again, at Chatsworth Earth Day, Chatsworth LADWP Nature Preserve Earth Day, they had a very cool organization called Animal Tracks, which we may maybe invite next year. There, they had a cockatoo, a monkey, and 2 Peruvian cavies, which is it looks like a cross between a rabbit and a deer. So they had some really cute, unusual animals that maybe, yeah, they're cool. That maybe we can think about having a very cute petting zoo next year. Also, I found out from the National Park Service, again, speaking to Jason's comment, if we do it ahead of time enough, there's something called the National Park Service Ranger Troco. And it is a very cool truck that they bring out. And they have binoculars and field guides for bird watching, a scat game to test your knowledge of urban wildlife in the neighborhood, a lot of stuff for kids. So again, I've learned about some other organizations who might want to invite there next year. Let me see. Okay, the photo booth. It was very windy. One more minute. Okay, it was very windy. They couldn't do their backdrop. They only had 27 people take advantage of it, so we may have to rethink that next year, whether that's something we want to do. It was a clean energy event. We had the solar panels on the battery charger, so that worked out really, really good, no diesel. Outreach publicity, thank you to Lane, she's not here, but she made our wonderful flyers. We did full-page ads in Valley Voice. Mitch Englander included it in his email blast twice, which was fabulous. We really appreciated that. I'm trying to go through this. The spinning wheel was a hit at our table. Some people came back for seconds, so we may want to stamp people's hands so they don't, spin twice. Or not, this kind of depends. Some people were under the impression that they had to sign in. They didn't have to, so we'll have to make that a little more clear next time. There was a little confusion with one of the volunteers. Only 6 out of 11 board members were there, so I think it's really important that we pick a date ahead of time and that everybody can make it and really be there for most of the time, because this is our event and we're hosting it, so I'm hoping to get a little more better participation next time. And cleanup, I will make that a formal volunteer slot for the PRNC community school volunteers and the YMCA volunteers. I didn't expect how much work that was going to be to clean up because it's such a much bigger event, so I'm going to get volunteers next year. And the volunteers were like the best part. PRNC community school, we said thank you to the principal. Those kids were terrific. The YMCA kids were terrific. I can't say enough good things about our volunteers. We really had a lot and they were really, really good. So that's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Susan. Good job. Last item before the break, item 13. Andrew?
Yeah, discussion and possible action to approve holding half the PRNC general regular meetings in alternating fashion for fiscal year 2018-2019, July 1 to next June 30, at Castle Bay Lane Elementary School. Okay. It's just an idea to bring in more stakeholders. We have a couple of events. We now have 2 holiday events at Castle Bay. I think those have been wonderful. I've had stakeholders ask if we could do this. I don't know why they just can't truck down here, but whatever. Personally, I thought it was a really interesting and good idea to try. If we can get new people to be involved, then that's a wonderful thing. So that was the idea behind this, and we have someone from the school who can speak on this, if that's okay.
David?
Good evening again. Myself and the principal are new to Castle Bay Lane this year, so it's been a learning curve for both of us, learning the community. Mr. Andrew was correct. We had a very warm and receptive winter holiday dinner. The music was very entertaining, and it seemed like even the weather was bad and rainy that night, we still had a pretty good turnout. There's probably a lot of people in that area. It's a lot easier to go 1 mile down the street, although it's only 5 miles down here. So convenience would be an opportunity. We just work out a couple of logistical issues. But I cannot, even to our multi-purpose, our performing arts center, it's similar. We can set up a similar type of format. I really cannot see why we couldn't do it as a outreach between the 2 organizations to promote collegiality and to promote more outreach between Castle Bay Lane and Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council. Any questions?
I asked you this, but I want to ask it in the public forum also. Would there be someone there to open and close after we're there, or what timing is for the custodian?
Exactly. Well, one good point is, as at this moment in time, I'm planning to be there full-time next year. This year, I've been split between 2 locations, and it's been challenging, to say the least. Okay. So at least me being there full-time, getting in, getting set up, as long as you calendar it far enough in advance, I don't foresee any problems. One thing about the parking lot is Monday through Friday, we leave the outgoing gates open, so that should not be a problem. If I know ahead of time, we can work out some kind of logistical details as far as you don't have to lock all the stuff out, we just go outside and everything will close behind us, like we did for the holiday program.
The two issues to consider, I'm not saying they're, any problem, but to consider, first of all, if we are, any meeting we hold at Castle Bay, we would need to get a permit through the Civic Center for LAUSD, which is just a matter of an application with a fee and just set the dates is really the key that the Civic Center wants. So we can work through that. But the other issue that I think about is, every neighborhood council has a set place where it meets. And it provides a way for people not to have to even think where the neighborhood council is to this month versus next month. It's a little bit difficult to, have people say, okay, hey, it's an odd month, we're going to go there, but the new month, we're going to go here. But just something to think about. But I have no problem with the idea at all.
I'll speak to this point. I know this came up in beautification committee, and we were all supportive of it. It was actually Alex's idea, because the thing you have to realize about Castle Bay is that it's in the older part of Porter Ranch, where we don't have all these HOAs, where they're maintaining the streets and things like that. So the beautification committee felt that it would bring attention to that area and the needs in that area as far as trees and sidewalks. And because here you have an HOA, you have a master HOA, takes care of everything. Everything's looking good. So that was a key point. And then to Esam's point, I think we are in desperate need of locations for committee meetings. Okay, we have a lot of committees. We have a lot of committee meetings, and we've been dependent upon the library. And I think that it's not, it would be nice to have committee meetings. These are meetings that are not necessarily every month. They might be every few months, they might be every month, so they vary. And so that kind of alleviates the issue that Esam was talking about, where with our board meeting, keeping it in the same place. But I think it's very important to reach that demographic, and I think that far outweighs people, our regular stakeholders will make it over there. So I think it far outweighs, the benefits far outweigh, because you're really reaching a new people. And I think we can work together too, with the school in promoting different things, different events that we're doing. So it would help with our outreach too, where we can keep in touch and work together.
Just a minute. Any other board discussion item?
Yeah.
Let's make it quick, please. Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm in support of the concept and the idea because of the fact this way it allows more people to join. For example, the Board of Public Works, what we do, we select one evening periodically and we go to each council office. So this way we allow the people from that specific council and those neighborhood councils to attend rather than driving all the way to downtown. So I think it's a good idea.
I can speak loud.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. Alex?
I'm sorry.
I'll be very brief.
Just a second. Go ahead.
I'm all for the motion. I think that'll be the best outreach we can do without spending any money.
Okay. I'm sorry.
So I'm in agreement with having Castle Bay as an alternative site for a meeting. In regard to alternating every month, that might be confusing. I agree with the point that some is making. How about considering that we do several months in a row in one place, like 6 months here and 6 months there? That might alleviate some of that.
Exactly.
Good idea.
I think it's a great idea. I think that we bring in, sometimes I live east of Tampa, and I think that west of Tampa gets a lot of attention, and east of Tampa, nobody knows we're there.
Right.
That's just my feelings, and I think it would be great to have it at Castle Bay. My concern is, and my kids went there, my concern would be that people are going to be confused where it is. So I kind of like what you had to say. Maybe we could do it 6 months here, 6 months there, but I think it's a great idea.
Okay, so are we ready to have a motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion. or Andrew has a motion.
Trust me, just a second. Do we have a motion?
Are you going to make the
Did
motion?
you make that motion?
I did not make the motion.
Would you like to make a motion?
I will defer.
I'll make the motion.
I'll defer to Jason.
Jason's doing it.
Jason is good.
Sorry.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to, we didn't apply for the permit. I thought we did apply for the permit. We haven't, right?
No?
Okay, so I'll make a motion to apply for the permit to hold our regular board meetings and committee meetings at Castle Bay Elementary. And then to decide later on.
I can't decide later. If we're filing the application, it needs to have dates.
Okay, so
That's
then,
not the motion, though. The motion is to vote whether we're going to have part of our meeting at Castle Bay and part of it here. And that, what you're talking about is a totally different topic about the permits. So this motion here,
okay, so yeah, we
I
don't
would
need a
slash
motion.
alternating fashion and just vote yes or no.
We are voting to set in motion the process of application, selecting dates, all that. We may come back for the specifics, but we're setting in motion the go-ahead to start planning that.
So that's what I was saying with applying. Okay, so my motion is to take the steps to apply to have our regular PRNC general meeting at Castle Bay Elementary. For part of the year.
For part of the year.
For part of the year.
All right, can I have a second? All right, public comment. Yes.
I just wanted to say at the Harbor City Neighborhood Council, we would have one meeting at the library and one meeting at the Chamber of Commerce locally. So we didn't seem to have a problem as long as at the end of the meeting, we just reminded everybody the next meeting is here, the next meeting is here. It didn't seem to be a stakeholder issue.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment?
I think we should do it all the time.
Close to my
Call the vote?
All right, David.
Yes.
Say what the motion is again?
Francis, can I make the motion?
Yeah, take the steps to apply for a permit to hold regular board and committee meetings at Castle Bay as well as PRCS.
No.
At Castle Bay.
That's not what he said.
Take out the PRCS part, and then, are we going to, we won't deal with committees wasn't in there.
You did say part of the time, so part of the time means part of the time there, part of the time here, so you gotta be specific. You said part of the time. You said part of the time.
It'd be vague, so it allows us to maximum flexibility.
Approval in half of the PRNC meetings at Castle Bay and half of the PRNC.
Okay, so
He's making the motion.
So the motion is to initiate the process.
You said take the steps.
Yeah, take the steps to, because we're going to come back once we get closer with new motions on deciding when, the specifics. We need to get
Vote on
approved.
application.
She needs the words for the motion.
Can you read it again? Take the
Yeah,
application.
take the steps to apply for the permit to hold regular board meetings at Castle Bay.
That's the first
Take
one.
out the permit.
Take out what?
Permit, it's nothing to do with the permit.
Oh, he said, okay, take.
Remember, what's on the agenda is not necessarily the motion.
He said it and he said it again.
Take the steps to apply to hold, okay.
Discussion, yeah. It's not.
Take the steps to apply to hold regular board meetings at Castle Bay.
Look, I'm going to
All
withdraw
right,
my
that's-
motion because everybody's, I'm going to withdraw my motion. Somebody else make the motion.
There's a motion on the floor and a second.
Oh, there is a motion on second. Okay, never mind.
Take the steps to apply.
Read the motion, please.
Okay, take the steps to apply to hold regular board meetings at Castle Bay.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Call the vote.
All right, David.
Okay, said yes.
Hassan. Yes. Susan.
Yes.
Alex. Yes. Jason.
Yes.
Andrew. Yes. Becky.
Yes.
Jennifer, absent. Hassan.
Yes.
Gabriel, yes. Isam.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, we'll take a 7-minute break.
The gentleman asked to have 2 minutes because he didn't understand the public comment period or first time here. So, go ahead.
Oh, really? 10 seconds in already?
There you go.
Okay.
You got it.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Christian Carrion. I am a social responsible investment manager, which invests only in companies that are socially responsible. How does that apply to Porter Ranch? Well, one of the things that we focus on is investing in companies that are socially responsible and follow ESG metrics, environmental, social, and governance. So we follow these companies that follow these standards, these metrics, in order for investors that want to have an impact with their money to invest in. I've been investing here for 3.5 years. I'm thinking, I got affected with the SoCal, with the Aliso gas leak as well. I had a kidney transplant years ago, which really affected me because I didn't know how that was going to affect me with my health. So I really, literally moved for a period of time. So I was thinking, what can we do as a community? How can we raise our collective consciousness to be more socially conscious with the businesses that are in our backyard? Since with public trading companies, they follow these metrics, ESG, social responsible. Businesses don't really do that. They're not following a certain standard. I was thinking, I saw on your website that you invite residents of Porter Ranch to speak on topics related to Porter Ranch. I was wondering if I can have the opportunity to speak on this and educate the people who attend on how to implement these sort of standards with businesses that are in here. A lady brought up here that she wanted to suggest businesses that could be put into these new areas. Why don't we suggest these type of standards that they need to follow? You brought up that we need to stand up for our health, our families, our wealth. Why not stand up as a community to be socially conscious with our businesses? There is a possibility to be a conscious capitalism, where purpose meets profit, and we can collectively demand that from businesses here. And in a way, if I can speak on this topic and show, thank you for your time, if I can speak on this topic and show to many residents and you guys how we can govern these standards for these companies, I believe that collectively we will raise the standards and we won't have companies like an oil company behind us literally taking value from the earth. Sorry, I was very limited.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Shut up.
Yes. No, okay, sorry, it looked like you were looking over my shoulder. Yeah, shut up. Thanks. We're going to project over your head though, so we...
We'll move.
Yeah. This is Anna and Christina from, I want to get this right, Climate Resolve. Yes. And they're going to be giving us a presentation, Climate Change in Los Angeles, Addressing Our Area's Extraordinary Challenges and Opportunity for a Better Quality of Life. Thank you. Thanks for having us. So you are going to teach us, or you're going to stay there? Or? Okay. Okay. No rush. I just want to make sure I don't have my back over there.
And I will be on the mic. So, first of all, thanks again for having us.
Dim the lights a little bit, somebody?
Yeah. If we can dim the lights, we'll be able to see the presentation a little bit better. Cool. Perfect. That's great. Thank you. Perfect. Sure. Well, we're going to take less than 30 minutes, so please feel free to set the timer, but we will put us ahead of schedule, hopefully. So, a little bit about Climate Resolve and why we're here. So we're a nonprofit. We're based in downtown LA. We service all of Southern California, connecting people to climate change. So I know that you're aware of this issue, and some of you 10 years ago might have seen a little documentary by the name of An Inconvenient Truth, and it put polar bears at the front of this movement, put this big existential issue on the map. And it was really scary, and it was overwhelming, and it didn't really have anything to do with our day-to-day lives. So we're not going to talk about any of that today. What we're going to actually talk about is how climate change affects us here in Porter Ranch. I know you're well aware of the impacts of a fossil fuel economy,
And so we'll touch on that somewhat at the end of this presentation. But what we really want to focus on are solutions. Because as citizens, as residents, as people living our day-to-day lives in this area, it's sometimes hard to connect this big, really giant existential issue with our own action, our own potential, and our own behaviors. And the fact of the matter is that we actually have a lot to be proud of in our region. We have obviously a lot of faults, but there's a lot of great activity happening in the city of LA, the county, in Southern California, and our state. And specifically some actions that we can implement personally, but also some things to share with you that Climate Resolve has done within the region, and that our representatives and other folks in business and industry are doing as well. So Climate Resolve was founded in 2010, again, to connect climate change to people. We're a small, scrappy organization founded by that guy on the right, Jonathan Parkry. He is a longtime activist, climate justice activist, and also somebody who knows a lot of folks in city government. So we've been able to leverage the relationships that we have, but also the psychology of putting the sort of like death and destruction headlines of the New York Times that you're used to seeing aside and focusing on this new narrative. Because people, we shut down when we hear this negative stuff all the time. It just doesn't motivate us, it makes us paralyzed. And so we were able to take a look at the real science that affects us here within the region and put that into policy to make lasting solutions for Southern California. So taking a look at this first slide, one thing that Climate Resolve has done is enact the first ever cool roof ordinance, and this applies to the city of LA. Now I'm wondering, just by a raise of hands, how many of you have heard of cool roofs? Wow, awesome. Yeah, again, you're a really engaged group. It's really fantastic to be with you. That's way more than average than we typically encounter at our meetings. But so cool roofs, for those of you who aren't familiar, I'll talk about them in a second. But the law that we helped pass was taking Title 24, the building code for the city of LA, and making something optional mandatory, and that was installing cool roofs on new homes being constructed and also on homes with their roofs being retrofit by over 50%. So taking a look at the next slide, why did we choose to focus on cool roofs? Well, first of all, cool roofs, some people think are just white roofs. Some people think they're green roofs with plants on top of them. They count as cool roofs, but we are talking about something that looks just like a regular roof, like the one you see in that picture. Cool roofs are actually comprised of shingles, like a regular roofing tile, that have a bead in them. It's a polymer that reflects the sun's radiation back into the atmosphere. And cool roofs look just like a regular roof, which makes them pretty easy to adopt as well. They are applicable to flat roofs, but are specific, so for commercial application and for apartment buildings, but specifically we targeted residential in LA. Now why? So let's take a look at this next slide. So cool roofs, on average, reflect 80% of the sun's shortwave radiation back into the atmosphere safely. That means it can disperse through the clouds into space and it's gone. Now why do we want to do that? Because typically when the sun beams down on the earth, the sun doesn't emit heat. That's a common misconception. The sun emits radiation that's absorbed by dark surfaces like the earth or like asphalt or like roofs, and that's re-emitted as heat. And what that does is that heats up, it's absorbed, and then heats up the surfaces and the buildings underneath roofs in particular. So by getting rid of some of that radiation back into the atmosphere, we're keeping the temperatures cooler inside the home. That's up to 10 to 15 degrees on average with a cool roof. In addition to that, so that's a public health benefit. In addition to that, you're reducing the demand for electricity because you're using less fans, you're using less air conditioning, so that's a benefit for financial purposes. And lastly, when we have really hot days, like we're probably going to have a few of this summer, you're looking at days with a peak demand on the energy grid. And so in those days of peak demand, when sometimes even LADWP will say, hey guys, let's use a little bit less energy today, try and shower in off-peak hours or run your dishwasher or your washing machine at off-peak hours, we're reducing that peak load, and so we're reducing the amount of greenhouse gas emissions being emitted into the atmosphere because LADWP is still using fossil fuels, so we're getting off them pretty quickly. Anna will talk about that in a bit. So we saw this as a triple win. So moving on, We also saw this as a big opportunity. If you look at this map, it's a map of impervious surface cover. So what is that? That's streets, that's roofs, that's dark surfaces, that's anything that's not trees and ground. So all of that red is impervious surface cover all across the county of LA. And we saw that as an opportunity. If we take all of those dark surfaces that are normally absorbing the sun's energy and heating up our sort of ambient temperatures near ground level and cool them down with these cool surfaces, we're reducing the effect of the urban heat island, right? Which is that why cities feel hotter, why places that are less green feel hotter, because of all that asphalt, because of those dark surfaces, right? And also, heat is a key ingredient in smog, right? So when you have tailpipe emissions, 99% of tailpipe emissions contribute to ozone. Ozone plus heat equals smog. So when we reduce heat, when we take that part of the chemical equation out of the picture, we're actually improving air quality as well. And this is a proven effect. Lastly, we don't really need to worry so much about not absorbing heat. When we come through a winter like the one we just had, we know that they're pretty mild and we don't have to worry too much about the heat loss within our homes. So next slide. Going a little bit further, we've worked on this project with a few different scientists, both from USC and UCLA, so there's no partisanship here. So Dr. Haider Taha at USC, he was the one who helped identify this fact that heat moves. So why do we pinpoint this? Because there's a heat archipelago that moves across the city. Heat moves with the wind and ends up in foothill communities out in the valley, in areas like this, so that against the mountains, against the San Gabriel Mountains, the Santa Monica Mountains, we're seeing that heat, let's say on a big urban heat island like the tarmac at LAX, will actually shift and move. So it's affecting everybody all across the county. So next slide, going a little bit deeper. This is some of the work that we did with a professor at UCLA. His name is Dr. Alex Hall. He was on the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change team that won the Nobel Prize in 2007. And why we worked with him is because he is sort of the master of urban heat. He has created, utilized a tool called dynamical downscaling. And I try not to be too jargony, but what this refers to specifically is taking heat measurements, which used to be available only at a minimum of about 30-kilometer radius across the cityscape. And he was able to use this dynamical downscaling process to narrow down heat projections to a 1.2-kilometer radius. Now, I know we're on a different measurement system, but if you think about that for a second, that's a matter of blocks. 1.2 kilometers is a walk around your neighborhood. So he was able to pinpoint heat projections specifically within our neighborhoods for us in the city of LA. We took this data and his team was gracious enough to put this info segment it into council districts. So on the left, what you're seeing is the number of extreme heat days over 95 degrees per year from 81 to 2000. So that's even a little bit low right now. What we're looking at on the right in orange is the projection into mid-century from 2041 to 2060. So let's zoom in on Council District 12 today. So on the left, we have 61 extreme heat days, days over 95 degrees currently or a little bit more. What we're looking at within most of our lifetimes is 95 extreme heat days per year. That's 3 months of extreme heat, right? And that doesn't mean that, all the other days will be cool. So this isn't meant to scare you, it's meant to empower us because now we know what to expect. So where can we target solutions based on the numbers that we have in this context, right? So moving along, I want to note that everywhere across LA, we're going to see 3 to 4 to 5 degree temperature increases. We're going to see 3 to 4 times, 3 to 4x number of extreme heat days per year. So this is an all hands on deck experience, like Anna will share with us a little bit later, and that requires that we utilize the resources that we have within the local context so that we can address this as a county, but also through our neighborhoods, right? Starting small is the way that we actually end up making the bigger impact. So let's move on and talk a little bit about health. So firstly, heat contributes to more deaths than any other natural disaster combined, more than storms, more than wildfires, more than all of them. Now, moving a little bit deeper into that study, heat is also impacting people who are the most vulnerable. So think about it, people who are young, children whose immune systems are developing, people who are elderly, who might have already compromised respiratory systems, and people who are working in the outdoors, who are at the front lines of this issue. So heat is trickling down into the social fabric of our communities. And in addition to that, if we were living on the East Coast and there were a blizzard outside, you would know to put on your scarf, you would put on your boots, you would put on a parka. I mean, in April they were having blizzards, a month ago on the East Coast. You know how to prepare. Here in Southern California, it's kind of like, well, it's always 75 or 80 around this time of year, but it's becoming a little bit more unpredictable. And with these extreme heat spikes that we have, you might have some days like we were having a couple of weeks ago, where it's in the 50s at night, but then all of a sudden it's 85 during the day. And those kinds of extreme desert-like temperature swings are hard for us to adjust to. Right? So it requires that humans are a little bit lazy about drinking water. We're not so accustomed to preparing for the impacts of heat. So this is part of how we need to plan within our public health context as well, to be able to ensure that people who are vulnerable and all of us regular folks are prepared to deal with the impacts of heat. So moving on, another just laundry list of things that extreme heat will affect. I mean, it bears mentioning. I don't want to go into this too deeply, but yeah, we'll just skip over that. It's a few things that we've identified that are impacted by extreme heat. Property values being one, roads and rails being impaired. We've had a lot of talk about potholes, and we know that asphalt melts and is compromised during extreme heat days as well. So let's move on and talk about water for a moment. So this picture that's going to pop up probably is familiar to some of you. Do you recognize what this is? What is it? It's the aqueduct. It's the Los Angeles aqueduct. Thanks to William Mulholland and our forebears who created this sort of idyllic, sort of urban metropolis in Los Angeles. The water that supplied our region so that we could flourish comes from aqueducts, like the LA aqueduct, like from the Eastern Sierra and from the Colorado River aqueduct. There's a California aqueduct as well. So these three tributaries supply us with the water that we need to survive. We rely on these, they're our lifelines. And in fact, water coming from the Eastern Sierra like this and from those two other places I mentioned, two other aqueducts, well, they make up 88% of our water supply. So 12% of our water comes locally. Because of our infrastructure, we're working on improving that at that rate. But that means that we're pretty heavily reliant on our neighbors. And there's a little bit of talk in the news recently about water coming out of Lake Mead and Colorado River. And, water agencies are a whole snarl in and of themselves. But nevertheless, it means that we're going to be investing in our infrastructure. So taking a look at this slide, say we were to have an earthquake, a seismic event, we would have water coming from Colorado that might be cut off. We need to ensure that we have the public infrastructure necessary so that we can sustain ourselves without having to be so reliant on our neighbors for water. And so looking at this next slide, does anyone recognize this picture? Yep. Oroville, exactly. Thanks, Susan. Yeah, so this is the Oroville Dam crisis just over a year ago, February of last year. With climate extremes, I like to call it climate disruption. It's not just global warming. I mean, water vapor is the most abundant greenhouse gas in the atmosphere, and that contributes to extreme precipitation events. So we're seeing lots of water, and we're seeing times of no water. In fact, some of our scientist friends at UCLA just coined this term precipitation whiplash, where we'll see these kinds of years like we had in 2016, 2017 in the winter, where we're just dumping water and then we'll go 6 years through another drought. So that's becoming more frequent. So we need to prepare for impacts like this. In addition to the fact that, of course, using this data, our friend Dr. Paul at UCLA was also able to identify that our snowpack supply is coming down as less snow and as more water. So where the Eastern Sierra was sort of our cooler, our freezer for the wintertime, where we would store our water and typically it would melt down in springtime and fill our reservoirs and our aqueducts. Now we're seeing more rain and less snow with that same dynamical downscaling technique that he used. So that also begs the question, how are we going to build up our infrastructure so that we're prepared to be able to capture the water that will come down, but less of it will be coming down as snow and less of it will stay frozen during the wintertime. So moving along, Anna's going to talk to us a little bit more about GHG emissions, our energy supply, and where we have opportunities to take action beyond what I said already.
So this is the California greenhouse gas emissions inventory taken from CARB, the California Air Resources Board. And we're looking at this because it's very reflective of LA's own greenhouse gas emissions. As you can see, transportation is the biggest chunk of the pie, and that's reflected in LA with all the cars driving around. But if you include the 50% from industrial, that's the refineries that are producing gas for these cars, then that's 50% from our transportation industry. So that's where we see an opportunity to reduce our impacts. But looking at LADWP's energy mix, that's also a place where consumers can play a role by investing in energy efficiency and electric vehicles. So, like Christina said, there's coal in the energy mix currently, but by 2030, hopefully they will get to 55% renewables, and energy efficiency is also a really big chunk of the pie, where consumers can reduce our energy consumption, but also invest in EVs. So let's take a deep breath. We're going to explore the different solutions that are available. So we'd like to zoom out and take a look at what the city of LA has accomplished. And there are a lot of laudable accomplishments that the mayor's sustainability plan has accomplished, such as increasing local solar production by 25%. And also the state is on track to reaching its 50% renewables by 2030, if not sooner. And last, third point, LADWP has already reduced greenhouse gas emissions by 40% below 1990 levels. And that's by divesting from fossil fuels and investing in renewables like solar and wind and hydro. The last point is that our recycled water production has expanded to 12 million gallons per day. That's enough to supply for 67,000 Angelinos per day. And that number is going up because the mayor has a pilot project at Hyperion and El Segundo to double our recycled water production. So earlier we mentioned that we'll cover cool streets in our presentation. So here's your little piece of cool streets. Cool streets work similarly to cool roofs, where it's a polymer coating that reflects energy back into the atmosphere, keeping the ground level cooler. So it makes a difference from 5 to 20 degrees Fahrenheit. So in the valley, that could be a big difference on a really hot day, from 140 to 120 degrees. So there are 14 of these pilot projects throughout the entire city. It's a pilot project with the Bureau of Street Services, and in Council District 12, as promised, you can find one on Etiwanda Avenue between Napa Street and Maiden Street. So it's kind of near CSUN, you can see the map up there.
Has anyone seen that?
Yeah.
What is it?
It's
A cool street.
I don't want it between what it is, but what is it?
Napa and Maiden.
What is it that you said, did you see the previous slide?
The white street.
It's a type of coating that's light gray, and it's similar to asphalt, but it's not, and then it reflects energy back into the atmosphere to keep the ground level cooler.
It's expensive.
It's around the same price, actually. Per year, per meter squared that's paved, it's actually a 3-cent savings in cost. Yeah, per meter squared per year. Yeah. And they're it's a new technology, so they're still looking into improvements for it. But you had a question?
I did. So, educated. So, I understand the material to produce Cool Street. The problem with it is it's a lot more difficult to make it versus regular asphalt. Is that correct?
It is. So there's a tool out there to do a 50-year life cycle analysis of coal pavement, and that's why it's still a new technology. And if they're gonna full-fledged invest in it, then they need to improve the production.
There's a mine in Corona right now that provides the material.
My question, of course, is that it's only going to stay white or light gray for 5 seconds. And the moment cars drive over it, it's going to be blurry and dark.
Yeah.
So this may not be your bailiwick, but how is the maintenance of these streets being handled? What maintenance is required to keep them as clean as they can be so they function, reflecting as much energy as they're supposed to?
Yeah, so we're not the city, so we're not too sure how they're planning to maintain it, but of course if someone drops a Slurpee, it's going to show on there, like oil slicks and people spitting their gums out. It'll be very apparent, but it definitely does take repaving. Not repaving, but like, repaving for it to be the normal library color.
Yeah, I mean, also, I was worth mentioning, so the solar reflectivity index, the SRI to get on a pool roof, is maintained on the pool street even as it starts to fade. I mean, it looks white, but it is light gray, and it starts off light, obviously, to have the highest reflective index possible.
Right, it's gonna degrade over time.
But even as it degrades, it will still maintain that. There are actually pool roofs, for example, that are black. And as long as they have the polymers in them, of course, they'll be a little bit less reflective than one that's tan colored or reddish brown, like a terracotta, but they'll still continue to reflect energy back into the atmosphere up to a certain point that a normal street would need to be repaved with asphalt. So, I mean, the life cycle seems to be about at parity, but obviously that's, like Anna said, it's going to be tested. Do you have another question?
No, there's like behind or behind you.
Yeah, thanks.
So the thing about asphalt, there's basically two kinds. If you live somewhere like Seattle where it rains heavily, there's a type of asphalt that actually absorbs some of the rain to avoid constant flooding. And if you're somewhere hot like LA, it doesn't do that because instead it has to resist the intense heat of cracking. So I'm curious, where does this fall on that line? Does it handle both? Does it absorb water? Does it push it out? Does it avoid cracking? What's this substance do?
I mean, I have a quick answer. I don't know, do you have an answer? As far as I know, it's an impermeable surface, so it would be more in the latter category, like is typical in LA. I mean, it's solid. It's not meant to absorb water. Unfortunately, it would be ideal if we could have something that reflects light and absorbs water. But yeah. Thank you.
Back to the cool roof ordinance, what is the year that, is it new buildings or new residences have to do? What is the year that started?
2014. So since it was implemented, the official tally is something like 13,000 cool roofs have been installed already, but the actual number is probably much higher because there are a lot of installations that haven't been accounted for.
Because I'm assuming Toll Brothers here would anything after 2014 on these new homes would have to be.
They would have to, absolutely. They would have to. And most contractors are aware. There's a couple of roofing companies based in Southern California there's a couple of roofing companies in Southern California that one is Malarkey and the other one is called Owens Corning. Yeah, Malarkey's great name. So thanks. That's nice. Thank you. Anyhow, they provide the cool roofing shingles in a variety of colors, and most of the contractors in the area are familiar with their products too. I mean, we don't endorse one or the other, but those are two examples. So absolutely, it would be mandatory, and it's up to the building inspectors to enforce the code, as they normally would for any other part of Title 24. Yes?
What is the difference in cost to roof a house, a cool roof, as opposed to what we have now?
Yeah, so I was going to mention that.
It's a two-sided question. And how long do the two roofs last?
For the lasting, I'm not too sure. It's supposed to last about the same as a regular roof because it's not anything different. It's just a regular roofing shingle. But
it's made with predominantly the same material as a regular roofing shingle, except for the little beads that are a part of it. So it's basically the same exact thing.
I think what you guys, the message that you're giving is excellent. You need to cool down the streets and the roofs, but I don't think we've worked all the details out as to what the cost is going to be. What's the cost?
Anna has an answer for you about that.
Yeah, so the cost, you would save about 15 cents per square meter per year. So over the span of a year, I mean, the payback period is 6 to 7 years for installing a cool roof. But for the cost, it should be about the same.
The savings is in
The savings is in, the energy cost and the purchase.
Okay, but what about the cost for the builder to put the cool roof on as opposed to the roofs they put on now? Is it more expensive, less expensive? No, not the savings. over time, but how much does it cost to put a roof on a house? Okay.
So recently, so what we had heard originally was that the payback period was a year and that you would actually save money. Eventually you would have a net savings because of the rebate on the actual shingles. So purchasing the shingles for installation ultimately would be cheaper. Now we've recently found out that the payback period is about 6 to 7 years. So the premium that we just heard is about $1,200. But nevertheless, you get 20 cents per square foot rebate on cool roofing shingles through LADWP. And in addition to that, you would have ultimately, the payback period would be 6 to 7 years according to the source that we just heard. My educated guess is that it falls somewhere in the middle. And of course, also if you're doing a retrofit on your roof, it depends on the area of the roof that you're installing. So it might be at parity, or it might be a little bit more, but ultimately it's not an extravagant cost on top of it, and there are savings opportunities right at the time of purchase available too. Yeah.
Can we mind the time?
Yeah, I didn't anticipate having all these questions, which I appreciate, but we'll take your question at the end. How about that? Or if you want to just ask quickly, let's go. Yeah.
I was going to just give you a technical insight. I
Yeah.
work in this industry,
Yeah.
reflection and windows and all those for over 30 years. So the way this particular asphalt or surface coating works is that they actually put certain materials in it, such as titanium dioxide. It's the same stuff that they put on your lotions that you don't get sunburn basically. So they have found these sort of minerals that they reflect heat. So they have incorporated into their tiles, and basically that's what it's doing, it's reflecting heat. So that's really the way it works. Now as far as the cost, there is a cost in making the product,
Yeah.
and there is a cost saving. So I think that's where the two kind of get mixed up. The initial cost may be a little bit higher, but the long term is saving that you have in your electricity bill. For example, your whole entire home or building stays cooler. Just one other comment or question that maybe you want to discuss is that this is one approach. The other approach that I'm quite familiar with is the window film, solar window film. That is by far the largest heat gain and heat loss to a building. And there's all kinds of solutions out there, and if you're interested, we can talk more on that.
Sure, yeah, I mean, we absolutely support that. We are responsible for the ordinance and working with street services on the Cool Streets program, so we're not on Windows, but absolutely, yeah. Okay.
We're almost done, I promise. So one thing you can do is check out the mayor's sustainability plan and see what you can help with improving our climate. And another thing you can do is check out LADWP's rebates. There are rebates for cool roofs through the consumer rebate program. It's 20 cents per square foot right now, which means it pays for the installation cost. Someone just told us that yesterday at Mid-City West. And also solar installation, you can get a rebate for that. They'll offset the installation costs for that as well. There's EV charger rebates if you've recently purchased one, and they have rebates for renters, homeowners, and commercial building owners. There's the Efficient Product Marketplace, Home Energy Improvement Program. If you think your home is wasting a lot of energy, you can ask LADWP to come, and then they'll do a full home inspection. They'll find areas where you're wasting energy and have a technician come and fix it up and install energy efficient products. One important one is Be Water Wise, where you can get water conservation items like rain barrels for when it sometimes rains. And today we actually brought low flow shower heads and bathroom sink aerators if you're interested. But this was a massive list of things. We also have half sheet flyers. If you want, you can get one from us.
Just looking, are there any current council files that are in the works right now? You know what I mean by council files, like motions with the city council relating to any changes in code or anything that you're aware of? Because I know they did the cool roof, but is there anything in the works? If there is in the future, just let us know because we can weigh in on it to a community impact statement.
Thank you.
Support. Keep us in the loop.
We're not aware of anything. We're not aware of anything related to these rebates at the city level right now, but
But I'm talking about, like, you know, for cool pavements or for
surely.
anything new.
So we are working with the CSO at the County of LA, Gary Giroux, on implementing a cool roof ordinance for the county.
Oh, great.
And we're also in talks with folks at the Governor's Office of Planning and Research about implementing this for the state. So, thank you. Yeah. Now we have mandatory solar on all new homes being built in California. That just passed today, so they go well, hand in hand. Yeah, thank you. Okay, cool. So to wrap this up, I know that all of you are engaged in this conversation. It's obvious, which is great. So we are on a mission not only to give you rebates and to give you a big picture kind of overview of the city and what it's doing in the county, but we're also in the business of educating people about how to be better communicators about climate by speaking about it in a local context. Talking about homes and roofs and windows and streets is one way to do it, but there are other ways that you can do this within your own specific industries, whether you're managing property, whether you're a school teacher educating children. Whatever you're doing, there's a way to talk about this where you don't have to become us and work for an environmental organization, but you can do this on a day-to-day basis. So we have a Path to Positive initiative, which is a communications campaign specifically designed to equip you to become better leaders and communicators about climate. We just did a webinar today on some research and communications guides that we are helping to share. And we have an in-person and webinar meeting coming up at the end of June, talking with actually connecting climate with faith communities, and also, which is great and a big opportunity, and also perhaps with national security as well. That's a conversation we want to have too. So please take a picture of this or grab one of our half sheets. It has this link on here. We want you to join so that you can be involved in this. And so without further ado, if all else fails, it is absolutely free and no mandatory requirements to be involved. It's simply a way for you to access this info.
Can we, I need to cut it off.
Yeah.
Anybody who has a
Great.
question?
Please come talk to me if you want to find out more about the campaign. If all else fails, this is Plan B. Thanks so much. Bye.
Jason, all right, can you make a 5 minute?
Yeah. So, I think, I just want to give everybody kind of an update on what's going on. On Monday, I'm going to be meeting with Urban Forestry to get the permits for the removals. For the work to start next week on Wednesday, we're looking to have somewhere between 20 to 25 tree removals. Most of them are going to be in Tampa. There's 4 on Rinaldi for removal. And then we're going to have also money for tree trimming. So any tree that is more than 50% dead will need to be removed. You can see white lines on the curve. They're marked. Those are removals. And the trimmings will be for anything that has, dead branches on the top or within the trees. A lot of them are next to the dead ones because they spread. So that's the plan. The streets are going to be closed along from about the library, halfway between the library up to the Park Northridge entrance. Those streets will be blocked Thursday and Friday to allow the removals and trimming over there. And I need some help with the outreach component to this. Can't do everything. I'd like to get some support, some ideas. I think we should be doing like a Valley Voice article. I think we need to let the community know that this is a Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council project. Because otherwise, it just appears like the city's doing the work. And this is a huge outreach opportunity. I've been talking to the HOAs. Everybody's really excited about this. And it's something to really show the good that we do on this board. I wanted to thank Assad for the introductions to the gentleman at Urban Forestry. I'm really excited about this project. It's been a tremendous amount of work, but it's something that I think will, something we're going to enjoy over the next 20 years because, and then I'm also working with local homeowners and HOAs to get their trees removed too, because we really need to rid the entire community of these dead trees. So that's the goal. If you know anybody who has these infested trees, you got to get them all removed. That's the main thing. So we were able to get most of we should be able to get most of it done, but there's still some work on Porter Valley Drive. It's not that much. It's like 2 removals and maybe 7 or 8 trimmings. So there will be a little bit, some work left that will be coming for the next fiscal year. But other than that, that's pretty much an update. If you guys have any questions or I'll let you know.
I just have a quick question. Are we good with spending the money that we've allocated? We're not going to have any surprises?
No, I have a 9,000 budget. The street closures were inexpensive. I thought they'd be like $500 or $163, something like that.
Okay.
So basically what I'm going to do is get all the removals done, for sure.
Who's doing it?
A company that's doing this called Your Way Tree Service.
So do we have an agreement with
The
them?
contract I was supposed to have on Monday, but Jeff Brill is still in the works on that contract. I talked to him today. He was hoping to get it out this afternoon, but I'm sure he's swamped.
Who's signing it?
The city, I think, doesn't the city sign and the vendor sign? That's the way it works, right?
Not necessarily. The contracts that we've done about the storage unit, things like that, I have signed them. So I don't care who, as long as Jeff has a sense of
I
who's
haven't
signing.
seen the contract, so when I see it, I
Okay.
can share. I'm sure you're on those emails. You were on the last emails, so.
I don't need to sign the contract. I just want to know somebody signing the contract.
I don't know.
To the satisfaction of the city.
Right, when that contract comes, I'll make sure that
All right.
you're on the email. You will be on the email, you were on the last one. Remember those emails that came? Yeah, from Jeff Brill? So anyways, that's the last thing, is the contract. The street closures are set, Andrew's gonna take care of payment.
When does the work need to be done for the payment to go through?
The payment is paid at the end of the job. So the job can be completed hopefully by the end of next week.
Is the payment by check or card?
The payment would be by check.
So the
We have
work,
until the 30th.
to submit a request for the payment.
Yes.
Just
So I'm
think
anticipating,
backwards.
so the work is slated for like the 16th, so yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we're on track.
Okay. Any other question for Jason?
I don't have any questions for myself, so.
Good job.
Any questions, comments for Jason? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Next item on the agenda, clearly a few business items. Andrew, these are 3 yours, so let's hit them one by one. Item 16, the regional.
Motion to approve a board member reimbursement for Susan Gorman Chang, the amount of $487.07. Yes. For the LA Parks and Recs permit for the Earth Day event. The amount of $887 in the agenda is incorrect. The motion has the correct amount of $487.07. The difference is the $400 deposit return, which we are expected to get. Susan was gracious enough, if you remember, we talked about this previously, to pay for this because we had already spent our monthly limit of funds. So Susan paid for it, which means the deposit reimbursement will come in her name. The permit was $887.07. The net of what Susan will get back and what she fronted is $487.07. That's the motion.
Second the motion.
Thank you. All right. Public comment?
Good.
Board
Can I
comment?
ask a question?
Go ahead.
All of these things, I don't know, why are we reimbursing board members? I just think it's opening, it's a bad precedent. And we've never done this really in the past, why are we doing it like this? We should be using the P card and the checks from the city. I don't think we should go spend money and expect to get it back. It opens up a whole thing for not accusing anybody of anything, but I think it's safer just to use the card.
Becky,
And that's what
the
we were
motion-
taught in treasurer training.
The motion.
Okay, no, I'm just asking. You asked
So
if
I'm
there were
telling
any
you, the
comments.
motion that is attached to the agenda has in it the city receipt for the permit. The city does not accept, I'm just telling you why it's that way. Because the city needs someone to go over it and pay it.
And they won't take a credit card?
They don't take a credit card.
Okay.
Our own city does not take our own credit card.
Oh,
So,
I'm sorry, to clarify, they do take a credit card. They don't take it over the phone.
You have to go down.
You have to go down. The issue, quite frankly, was Earth Day was so expensive that we kept upping the limit of what the city was releasing to us. This exceeded all of that. The only way to get this done and actually have the event was for Susan to go down and pay for it on her own.
What if they don't pay it?
Who doesn't pay?
The city, what if they say, well, we're not going to pay it?
she took the risk.
No, okay.
But they are paying this.
Oh, I know,
But
but
she
this
took,
is my
every
concern.
person who accepts to do this is taking their personal risk on. Any other comment?
Yeah, I think as board members, we go above and beyond to make these things happen. And Susan had to go down there, this event had to go down.
I get it, Jason, but I've done it for 13 years and we never used our own money because we were told not to.
That was
So
13
I don't
years.
think you
And
need.
we're talking about now, and the event, and what Andrew said with the card, and this is all real things that are going on, and we're dealing with this event, so.
So she expressed the comment.
Okay,
Let's
that's.
take the comment to the
We
record.
support each other.
Any other board comment on the motion? All right, call the vote.
All right, David.
Yes.
Hassan.
Yes.
Susan.
Yes.
Alex. Absent. Jason.
Yes.
Andrew. Yes. Becky.
No.
Jennifer. Absent. Assad.
Yes.
Gabriel. Yes. Isam.
Yes.
And motion passes.
Item 17, Andrew.
Motion to approve a board member reimbursement to Gabriel Canlin in the amount of $192.99 for printing costs for the April general meeting.
Can I have a second?
Yes. Second.
Public comment? Yes, ma'am.
I have a question, I remember this being an issue as before. When doing reimbursements, is the person being reimbursed allowed to vote on whether or not they get reimbursement, or do they have to excuse themselves?
Jimmy?
You are allowed to vote on your own reimbursement.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good question.
Other public comment? All right, board comment?
Yeah, I have a comment.
Yes.
I'd like to see these costs reduced. I think we've gone through a lot of effort to reduce our website costs, and to be spending this kind of money every single month is a lot. It's 168, what is it, for 1 month's agenda? I think that's a lot. I think that, we can be better, 15 cents a copy. That's my opinion. You obviously want to see it reimbursed, but I think Esam's done a lot of work to cut our costs in other areas. I think this is not something that we should be spending this kind of money on. Obviously, we need it, but there's got to be a better way.
Okay. Any other comment? All right, call the vote.
All right, David.
Yes.
Hassan.
Yes.
Susan.
Yes.
Alex is absent. Jason.
Yes.
Andrew. Yes. Becky.
No.
Jennifer. Absent. Assad.
Yes.
Gabriel. Yes. Isam.
Yes.
And motion passes.
Item 18.
Motion to approve board member reimbursement to Isam Najim in the amount of $234.49 for Earth Day supplies previously approved in the Earth Day event budget.
Yes, I'll second.
Public comment? Board comment? Discussion? All right, call the vote.
All right, David.
Yes.
Hassan. Susan.
Yes.
Alex is absent. Jason.
Yes.
Andrew. Yes. Becky.
No.
Jennifer is absent. Assad.
Yes.
Gabriel. Yes. Isam.
Yes.
And motion passes.
Okay. Item 19. Assad, I have your name on this because you proposed it. Do you want to carry it or not?
It says Andrew.
It says Andrew?
It says Andrew here, but it says aside on the agenda. Either way, I don't mind.
And then we're supposed to know the suppliers in that.
No, we don't need to know the exact. Andrew, you want it?
Andrew, go ahead. It's a fun one.
Discussion and possible action to approve up to $4,000 in outreach supplies consisting of a combination of t-shirts, hats, pens, mugs, stickers, magnets, and/or notepads. This is quite simply a catch-all motion so that we have the authorization to spend every last penny we can as we get into June, and certain costs are more or less than what's budgeted, and we have a few dollars left.
Before we second it, there's a desire to add also project signs and banners. Basically, banners that state this project is being supported by or funded by the PRNC. So just to not to exclude it by, not to reject it by exclusion. So would you add that as part of the different items that you listed?
Okay, so did you say banners and signs? No, it just, were those?
Those are the words.
Okay.
Yes.
Just want to make sure.
So you're asking me to amend, sorry Francis, stickers, magnets, notepads, banners, and/or signs? Does that cover what you have?
Yes, sign holder, yeah. Sign meetup,
Yes.
sign.
I honestly don't think it needs to be this specific.
Okay.
Trust me, it's not coming from me.
So, would you like me to repeat, Francis?
No.
You got it? Okay. It ends banners and/or signs.
So this is discussion, so before we have a motion to do that,
Yes.
discussions on it?
So we have the MP, we're gonna, the special meeting is for the 2,500 for the school. It's may or may not get approved. And then we have 1,000 as well, left approximately.
Yeah. What I'm thinking we're really talking about, I will make a personal assumption that we will find a way to support PRCS for 2,500. What we're really talking about is 1,000 plus or minus probably 300, depending on food costs, printing
So I
costs.
told you there's that expense 150-ish.
That's part of your 9. I think the tree was.
No, I'm talking, no, not that. I'm talking about previously approved motions for the.
Look, at the end of the day, I'm not wedded, like personally, I'm not wedded to actually buying any stuff. This is just a vehicle for us to have an ability to spend every last penny when we get to the middle of June and we're up against it. We realize we've got however much it is that we're already authorized. The board's already taken the action to allow us to do this. We can be as efficient as possible.
And also these items were already purchased, many of them have already been purchased, we've seen them, we just are running low after the event, so we're increasing our supply.
And so also after the end of the fiscal year, this motion will essentially die if it's not spent. So
Not essentially will, it will. All outstanding funding motions die.
The other 3,200 will be gone. Okay.
Yes.
Any other board comment, discussion on it? All right, can I have a motion if you'd like to have a motion, make a motion?
Sure. All right. Motion to approve up to $4,000 in outreach supplies consisting of a combination of t-shirts, hats, pens, mugs, stickers, magnets, notepads, banners, and/or signs.
All right, can I have a second?
I second.
Public comment? Do it. Sammy, I'd like to ask, do you see any challenges with the way we described it?
As long, disclaimer, I'm not funding, right? But I know you guys attach your attachments as a supporting material, so as long as it lists the items, are you going to make the purchase via your credit card?
Yes.
And it lists the items,
Right.
and you submit it with the board action count.
All right.
Should be no problem.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't see any funding issue. Especially since
All right. Any other public comment? Board
comment on the motion? Call vote.
All right, David.
Yes.
Hassan.
Yes.
Susan.
Yes.
Alex is absent. Jason.
Yes.
Andrew. Absolutely. Becky.
Yes.
Jennifer is absent. Assad.
Go for it, yes.
Gabriel, yes. Isam.
Yes.
And motion passes.
Thank you all. Without objection, meeting is adjourned. Sure.